The first question reads, what are your perceptions and experiences with individuals with disabilities? Me, I work with kids now and I see a lot of disabilities, whether they're diagnosed or undiagnosed, or they're in the process of getting diagnosed. But one thing I have learned is that the disabilities don't define who a kid is or what they're capable of, because they can do anything that any other student would. The next question reads, do your perceptions about disability matter as an educator? Why not? I say as an educator, disabilities matter profoundly. I say this because as an educator, perceptions about disabilities shape everything from classroom culture to curriculum design to how students feel about themselves, etc. If an educator sees disability through a lens of deficit or limitation, they may unintentionally lower expectations, overlook potential, or fail to provide the support and challenge that every student deserves to learn and actually succeed. But when disability is viewed from a form of diversity, something that enriches the learning environment, then inclusion becomes a social strength and everyone succeeds. The next one says, according to Eric, society imposes low expectations of those who have disabilities. Do you agree with his statement? Why or why not? I do agree with his statement because I do hear a lot of people talk about kids with disabilities and how those are going to be the students that have to stay on more. But I wouldn't say that, but due to the stereotypes, lack of awareness, and narrow view of what ability look like, I can see why people who don't work with kids or be with kids all day or have kids that don't have disabilities would say that. What is UDL and why is it important? UDL stands for Universal Design for Learning, and it is an educational framework that aims to make learning accessible and effective for all students regardless of ability, background, or learning style. The next one reads, most college campuses are generally accessible and maintain an office specifically for disability services and support. However, only 19% of young adults with disabilities in longitudinal study mentioned in the IRIS module reported requesting and receiving accommodations in those post-secondary settings. By comparison of these same young adults, 87% reported receiving accommodations and support during their time in high school. Well, what factors may attribute to these findings? I would say the shift. In high school, services are governed by the IDEA, which mandates schools to identify and support students. In college is ADA, but students mostly self-identify and advocate for themselves. And you're in college, you're living on your own. You may not want people to think that you know that you need extra help, so you may just feel like you don't want to. And the lack of self-advocacy also, many students haven't been taught how to go to talk to someone and actually get the help that they need, because it may not work the first time, but you have to keep going until you get what you want. And then the next one reads, discuss the pros and cons of the response to intervention model. The pros will be the early identification and support. It helps catches struggling students before they fall too far behind. And it emphasizes prevention rather than waiting for failure. And I feel like this is something that we all need right now, because we have all these pandemic babies that they're stuck to their iPads and they're not really learning as much, or they're not going into pre-K knowing as much as we did when we went into. So, yeah. Another pro would be data-driven decision making, and that would be frequent progress monitoring, helping educators to make informed and structural decisions. Objective data replaces subjective judgments in identifying and learning needs. A con could be delays in special education evaluation. Some critics argue that RTI can postpone formal assessments for students who truly need them. Students may remain in tier 2 or 3 too long without being evaluated for special education. So basically everybody's on the same page and they may need extra help, and they're just on a scale just seeing if they need extra help or not. Thank you.